campaign to interfere with the election. Garland said the two Russian employees of the Russian state media outlet RT have been charged. An Ohio man who filed a racial discrimination lawsuit has agreed to a settlement with the city of Toledo. Sammy Coleman, who is black, says that he was repeatedly passed over for promotions due to his race. Coleman works for the city's Road and Bridge Management Division. Bad weather got in the way of SpaceX's plans this week. The company had to move yesterday's planned launch from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station to this afternoon because of unfavorable conditions in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Celebrating hardworking teachers of New Orleans Public Schools is what we do best. Join New Schools for New Orleans, Allstate, Sugar Bowl, and Integer New Orleans in recognizing and celebrating the Teachers of the Year at our 3rd annual New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Awards Gala. If you want to check out the awardees and the schools where they teach at, please visit noeta, noeta.org. You can also purchase tickets to the gala via the website too. Let's send these teachers some love for all the hard work they do with our students.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning. Wake up, New Orleans. It's 5 minutes past the top of the hour. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, filling in for the incomparable OT. And this morning in studio as my co-host, I have Wesley Bishop.
Good morning, New Orleans. It's an honor to be here with the renowned educator and civic activist, Dr. Wyatt. It's an honor to be here. I've always been a big fan of WBOK and get a chance to sit in and talk about what's going on, not just in the city of New Orleans, but around the country on this morning.
Listen, I take compliments early in the morning, so thank you for that. We have a really good show lined up. Of course, we have our Congressman Troy Carter at the 7 o'clock hour, and then at the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to George Floyd's uncle, Selwyn Jones, on the tail end of one of the officers in the case being released. So we're going to talk to Selwyn Jones at the 8 o'clock hour, and of course, we're going to talk all things New Orleans and all things national news. So this morning, Wesley and I off air, we were talking about Liz Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris for president. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as you know, I'm a former state senator, so I follow
Yes, you
politics here in the city of New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, and I guess I call myself a political junkie, so I follow around the country. So I've been watching this race extremely closely, particularly since President Biden stepped aside, and the energy and the activism that you see around the Harris campaign. Liz Cheney has always been somewhat of a firebrand within the Republican Party. Of course, you know her father is former Vice President Dick Cheney, and she has always not so much, I guess, walked the line, I guess, with the Republican Party. So it really didn't surprise me when I actually saw that. I'm sure that the other person that's running for president is not pleased.
He shall not be named.
Remains nameless. Is definitely not pleased. But whenever there's a huge push, I guess, to get Republicans for Kamala Harris as a part of that particular piece there. So I'm excited to actually see that. I think there's some energy in there, some activism, and I think there's a very strategic plan on behalf of the Harris campaign to really divide into and to pull votes away. I mean, you see them in rural Georgia, you see them in rural Pennsylvania, in areas that in previous years would have kind of been just given to the Republican Party, thinking you actually had no chance.
Yeah.
But when you actually see that now, you peel away. I think all of that helps. And to have an endorsement by the former vice president's daughter and a former congressperson, I think it says a lot for the Harris campaign.
I think it also says a lot that we're seeing a lot of Republicans kind of sway away from the candidate at this time. I don't think that all of them are in love with the person who currently represents their shot at the White House again. Yes. I think a lot of them have fell out of like with him. I don't know if they've ever loved him, but out of like with him. And I think that bodes well for Kamala. I do, since you mentioned Georgia, want to talk about the school shooting in Georgia that took place. There was a 14-year-old male student. His name has been identified as Colt Gray. Okay. He shot and killed 2 teachers and 2 students, and I think wounded 9 additional students. And when we talk about swing states and when we talk about things that are important to those who are running for office, I think common sense gun control is, if not top 5, top 3.
Dr. Harris, you couldn't have said it any better. I'm sorry, Dr. Wise, you didn't have said it any better. My heart goes out to those families when that happens. You know, you hate to see that situation occur. And we've been talking about common sense gun control for a long, long
Yes.
time. For some reason or another, though, you have many individuals that the common sense gun control to them doesn't make any sense. And you shouldn't have to see it, but all you have to is see situations like that occur in Georgia, that occur in Pennsylvania, hell, that occur in Louisiana,
All right.
you know, on a regular basis, to realize that we have to make some sense out of this. You know, we shouldn't have to have another family, another child lose their life in a senseless situation for us to realize we need to do something better.
Well, the thing about it, when we talk about common sense gun control, we also have to talk about how integral the NRA is in terms of political funding. Because to me, in my opinion, just Dr. White's opinion, that if a lot of these politicians weren't taking NRA monies to fund their campaigns, they will be able to make decisions that actually put people above politics. So what is your assertion there?
Dr. White, I've seen it up front. I spent 10 years in the legislature, and the NRA was probably one of the most, I guess you'd say, powerful lobbyists that were actually there. Most of the folks who I work with, most of the folks who look like me, never were ever a part of the NRA, and it wasn't even an issue. But we would see the influence that they had on many of our colleagues across the aisle. And so you'd see that, and they would come in, and it was something as simple as 5 minutes before we're supposed to vote on a particular bill, and let's say if it was a bill that the NRA had a particular interest in, they'll send out a quick tweet and say such and such, please vote no on this bill. Now, it wouldn't come to me and my colleagues, but it'd come to my colleague who was sitting right next to me, who happened to have an R behind their name, and we would talk. And I was like, well, man, what is that? Oh, man, the ERA was doing this. This is important to them, this, that, and the other. I said, well, Doc, I know this doesn't make sense to you because we've talked about this before. He's like, well, man, I got to do it. My people tell me I got to do it. This was going on. And you see that, and common sense goes out the window. And it's unfortunate, particularly when you see a situation like we saw yesterday.
So, but if we continue to acquiesce to a few, I'm sorry, wealthy or affluent people who are pushing agendas, but they're funding your campaigns, we're going to continue to see more and more children die, unfortunately,
Absolutely.
at the hands of guns that could actually, in situations that could be prevented. I also think this idea of being able to switch handguns to automatic guns, I don't even understand the reasoning behind those sort of weapons being available to lay people. I think that's like military grade, military style weaponry. Why do regular everyday folk have access to those sorts of weapons? Where are they coming from? How are they getting in the most impoverished communities? I guess is my question.
What's so strange about it, Dr. White, is that, and I'm thinking back about me and my colleague that's currently serving the legislature, there's one guy in particular who's probably the biggest advocate for all things guns and all things weapons. Outside of the legislature, this particular person happened to be a person who was a big-time hunter. You know, and so he does this on a regular, and if you talk to him about it, it all makes perfect sense to me. Man, all my friends do this, and they like this, and there's no issue. Guns aren't really the problem. People are the problem. This, you know, and that's as simple, that's asinine, that's been said for a long, long time.
But it's also a disingenuous way to water down
Absolutely.
such a crucial
Absolutely.
issue. Yeah, guns are the problem. Yes, people with guns are the problem. But the reason we say guns are a problem because the argument is always about their right to carry, your Second Amendment right. Nobody's saying you shouldn't have the right to bear arms and protect your family should you be put in a position to do so. But we're talking about school shootings. We always hear about a school shooting and listen, we always hear about them kind of aligning with an election as well. Like
Correct.
It always happens, right? And so I think at this point, I don't know what Kamala's stance is going to be on Georgia. I don't know if she's going to connect it to Columbine. How many years ago Columbine was?
Yes,
And
yes.
we're still 24, 25 years later talking about school shootings because we didn't do anything to divert, the guns off of our streets or to divert guns being put in the hands of our children. And we were talking off air as well, and I made the comment about this idea of domestic terrorism, because that's what I call it. It's domestic terrorism, right? And we find that a lot of our schools where shootings aren't occurring are heavily policed with metal detectors and security and bag checks. But the schools where we see the shootings happen, you don't see any of those measurements put in place. Why is that?
It seems so backwards. And I'm sitting there, as you were saying that, I'm sitting there visualizing what you're talking about
Yeah.
and just looking within the state of Louisiana. And I mean, you have a situation whereby I guess if there's this idea that the schools themselves can potentially be dangerous, then you see a situation whereby there's the kind of weapons that are there. You see security that are there along those lines. But whenever they show, even if you're looking at Georgia right now, and you see the schools that are there, they seem pristine. They seem very nice. They seem like a situation whereby you wouldn't expect for there to be that kind of weaponry there. And then that's a situation whereby individuals lose their lives in these type of shootings. And then we look back at it and say, you know what? Maybe we should have done something different. Maybe we should have provided the kind of security that you have, you know? So what you would hate that you would have to go through this kind of a situation before those kind of measures are put in place.
So I'm going to ask you an Oliver Thomas style question.
Sure.
So if you were the grand head of common sense gun control, like you were calling the shot, you are the man, what measures would you put in place to help prevent shootings in our schools and even the guns on our streets?
A couple of things. Number one, nationwide background checks for everybody. I think that is extremely important. And then when you come to schools are concerned, I would have that from everybody, from the principal all the way down, and to get that done to see exactly what's going on with that. I think also something has to be done, and I don't know exactly how you do it, but when you see so many students, young students between 10 and 14 years old, I guess carrying weapons or bringing weapons to school, I think that there needs to be a situation whereby whether or not it's increased social workers, increased educators, increased counselors, so we can kind of notice and see what's going on with these kids before this actually happens.
So two things. I'm hearing folk call for the arrest of parents whose children are tied to school shootings. They're saying that parents should be arrested, especially if they own guns and are not protecting or locking their guns up in a safe way to prevent their children from having access to guns. Do you believe arresting and charging parents would do anything to put a dent in school shootings? And do you believe arming teachers and school personnel is a common sense way to battle gun safety?
I don't know exactly. I'm thinking it through as you're actually saying that. When I think back about wanting to arm teachers, I understand the logic behind that. Whether or not I understand or whether or not I agree with the principle behind it, I'm just not sure. Because you have a situation whereby if you arm teachers, I'm just not certain.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag for me because as an educator, I don't necessarily ever want to be inside of a school where teachers and school personnel are armed, because just as a lot of our children are dealing with unaddressed traumas, so are our teachers. There are going to be people who are, suffering in ways that we might not even know, and then we're giving them license to carry weapons in our schools. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I think the same way children are getting access to their parents' guns, there's a chance that students will get access to a teacher's weapon. And that poses another threat in and of itself.
And to jump in what you just said, I'm sitting there and visualizing a teacher in front of a class that's closed off with 30 kids that's in there, and that teacher going through the kind of drama that you just talked about.
And killing 30 children.
And killing 30 kids.
Yes.
When we're like, well, why did we ever arm this particular teacher?
Yeah.
And then we go back and do the same kind of background that we should have done on the front end with the kids. We now do it on this teacher, and we find out she's been going through this and going through that, or he's had those kind of issues, So like I said, I think it is definitely a recipe for failure. And with the trauma that's going on now, and we haven't been able to get our hands along this and try to figure these particular problems out, it just to go that particular route is problematic.
Yeah, because I believe it was Michigan where there was a case where the parents were charged. I think they received 10 years because their child got access to a weapon, shot up a school. I believe it was Michigan. WBOK has some smart listeners. I'm sure they'll correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But I believe it was Michigan, and I think that was the first time I ever heard of a parent being made responsible for the actions of their children in terms of a school shooting. And I just think it's lowbrow. I think it's punching down. I think if we really want to make a dent in what is happening in our schools around gun safety, we have to target the big money makers, the people who are profiting from the demise of our children. Because after Columbine, there shouldn't have ever been another school shooting. There shouldn't have been a Sandy Hook. There definitely shouldn't have been anything going on in Georgia. But I do think a lot of what we're seeing is by design. It's not by happenstance. I think that to coincide with an election is by design. I don't think anything is happenstance. And I just think that a lot of the times we are always using people as collateral damage for political agendas, and that has to stop. we need common sense gun control. And I'm just looking forward to what the presidential nominees or the people who have been chosen by the Democrat and the Republican Party to run for the presidency. I want to see what they're going to say about Georgia and gun safety. I'm just looking forward to that. What are your thoughts?
Well, I am as well. I'm looking forward, particularly for the upcoming debate that's going to occur.
Yeah.
And I know they're going back and forth and just trying to figure out all the rules, and we'll work out.
Because
those
now
together.
that's going to be on the agenda.
Absolutely.
The school shooting is going to be on the agenda.
It will be on the agenda.
Yes.
And so you'll see that. And I think what makes it so interesting is that, and not so they haven't really had a chance to talk much about that over the last few months or so. But now that it's front lines on everything that's actually going on, I think you'll begin to hear a little bit about it right now as we kind of go into it. And if both of the parties tend to have the same front line that has been going on, I guess, in the past, it's interesting to hear, I think, what I'm not going to estimate about what will be said, but I have a sense as to what the party line is actually going to be. And what's so unfortunate about it, you're probably going to hear a lot of what you've heard in the past.
I like assuming what's going to be said. I actually do. I'm looking forward to how composed I believe
What do you think
Kamala,
will be said?
Because I don't think that the Republican nominee will answer any questions directly.
Okay.
I think it's going to be very lowbrow in terms of his responses to everything. I think everything is going to be a personal attack against her as opposed to attacking the issues. And I'm hoping that her campaign creates this poise around her and this concentration around her where she can just focus on the issues. And it's going to be very easy to distinguish the candidate who's focusing on policy and focusing on moving this country forward, and a candidate that just wants to attack and bully his way back into the White House. And so that's what my assumption is. Just me, Dr. Wyatt, my opinion only. But I'm looking forward to what is to come from the debate. So that's a good thing. But we have Troy Carter coming up.
Absolutely.
Troy Carter is coming up. So if you want to talk to your congressman, the number here is 504-582-9422. I have Naira behind the glass holding me down, and I have Wesley Bishop in studio having some in-depth conversation about all things national and local news. So join us on the other side of the break for Troy Carter.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Your Power is On gospel music show is coming on at a new time. Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 AM and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to
all day long.
Discover the Leah Chase School, NOLA Public Schools' first new direct-run traditional public school in nearly 2 decades. We offer excellence in math, science, English, and social studies, focusing on unlocking every child's potential. Every scholar receives a personal device, regular assessments, clear family communication, as well as transportation services in a nurturing, arts-inclusive environment. Secure your child's K through 5th grade slot today. Apply at enrollnolaps.com and embark upon a unique educational journey.
Delgado Community College offers programs in business, technology, health sciences, and the arts with over 100 career-focused degrees and certificates that are affordable, flexible, and transferable. We can give you the knowledge and skills to succeed. Delgado is a great fit if you're starting your post-high school education, or we can help you advance or change your career. Take a step toward being unstoppable at Delgado Community College. Visit dcc.edu to learn more today.
Sunday mornings are reserved for a good word on WBOK. This Sunday, be sure to catch Dr. Kevin Stevens Sr., the pastor of Christian Unity Church, for service and a powerful, full, inspiring word. Listen live every Sunday morning right here on WBOK.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, an on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning. Welcome back to WBOK 1230 AM, the station you listen to all day long. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Behind the glass, holding both of us down is Naira. And in studio, we have Wesley Bishop. Say hey, Wesley.
Hello. Good morning. How are you doing? Good to be here.
We have our congressman, and I do apologize for leaving your title off, Congressman Carter. You know I mean no disrespect, but we have Congressman Troy Carter on the line with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, my dear sister. Good morning, my dear senator. How are you today?
I am doing fine, Doc. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good, man. Appreciate
you guys. And Dr. Wyatt, I take no offense, my
Well,
dear
thank
friend.
you.
My mother named me Troy, not Congressman.
Well, thank you, because you know I meant no disrespect, but you know when people correct you, you take it in love. I think there's love and accountability, so I wanted to correct myself and say Congressman Troy Carter. So welcome this morning.
Absolutely. Happy to be with you always.
Good. Now, Troy, I want to do this. I know you've had a chance to talk about this before, but I need to personally give you a shout out. Only last week I had the opportunity to be at Household of Faith Church when you made the announcement that you had secured $132 million specifically for District E, New Orleans East in the lower Ninth Ward. And as I looked at those 17 checks that were actually printed out, that were going out to schools, going out to nonprofits, going out to agencies who do the work on a regular basis, man, well, I am so proud to have you as the congressman for the 2nd Congressional District. And I know that you continue to work hard. You worked hard when you were in the State House. You worked hard when you were on the City Council. You worked hard when you were in the State Senate. And I know you worked hard in the State Senate. But, man, we just want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of New Orleans for doing the work that you do.
Thank you, brother. It's truly a labor of love. You know, you and I, of course, been friends forever and have served together in the State Senate and had an opportunity to have a bird's eye view of what it takes to get things done. So thank you very much for your service, and thanks for the recognition of, you know, a labor of love of delivering to a community that I promised I would do everything in my power to bring resources to a community of homeowners, of business owners, of individuals who have made the ultimate sacrifice to build a community, and I've been thirsting for some extra resources to meet them in the middle. And so, yeah, last week was a great day.
Absolutely.
So we had on yesterday, we heard about the news of the passing of Sybil Morial, and I know you have some thoughts that you want to share.
Yes, Sybil Hydell Morial, the quintessential lady in every possible way, of an iconic leader from an iconic family, 2 iconic families, a perfect storm of combinations between the Hydell family and the Morial family, which gave birth to our second African-American mayor, Mark Morial, and 4 additional beautiful children, Mark Morial, Jacques Morial, Julie, Cherie, and Monique. You know, an iconic family with a matriarch that did nothing but make us proud. First being the wife of our beloved first African-American mayor, Dutch Morial, and then being a leader in her own right, as she stood side by side with our former mayor. She also was an iconic leader in her own right as as a school teacher, as a philanthropic force, as a mentor, as an administrator, longtime administrator at Xavier University, my alma mater, and someone that, during the Jim Crow era just didn't accept the realities that racists tried to force us with. She could have probably easily passed or accepted a safer route because of her family's prominence, but she didn't. She used that prominence to advance other people, all of our people, in the way of equality. And we are forever in debt to the Morial and Heidel families for the work that they've done, and most specifically on the passing of Mrs. Morial, the matriarch of New Orleans, the quintessential First Lady of New Orleans, someone that lit up the room when she came in, someone that had not only style but incredible substance. She'll be sorely missed. What a blessing to have had her in our life. And as I said to someone yesterday, thank God that she had the wisdom and the fortitude to pass the baton to not only her children, but to pass the baton to so many others who she touched along the way. So we're ensured that her leadership, her love, and her commitment for New Orleans, Louisiana, and our nation will not soon be forgotten.
And Congressman, as I was listening to you talk, I was a freshman at SUNO when Dutch Morial ran and became elected as the first black mayor of the city of New Orleans. And I remember the pride that we took when he got elected. But what the pride wasn't just about him becoming the actual mayor. When you actually saw the Morial family on stage, and you saw Dutch, and you saw Sybil, and you saw those 4 kids who were all very young at the time. And and when I think back about it, and I hate to use it this way, but it's the one that kind of comes out. When as a kid, when I first watched the Cosby Show, and you saw that situation whereby you saw what black families could actually be. Many folks in our community, you really just didn't see that. But the idea to have a mother to serve as the anchor for that particular family, to stand behind her husband and raise 4 phenomenal young people who would all become professionals and to represent that family well. All of that and has to go back to Sybil Morial, because long before she was ever the first lady, she was the mother of that family. And so you see exactly the love and the interest and the intensity that she poured, not just into Dutch Morial, but to our family and to all families throughout the city of New Orleans.
Well said, brother. Well said, because it was a snapshot of what could be. And why could it be? Because it was. Because it wasn't a sitcom. It wasn't a TV show. It was a real-life family that gave all of us hope that our families could be like that too. Absolutely. A father that was the first African-American to serve in the Louisiana legislature. A father to become the first mayor of the city, African-American city, mayor of the city of New Orleans. And to then birth a son that would follow in his footsteps and become mayor of the city of New Orleans, and then ultimately his current role as president and CEO of the National Urban League. His baby girl following his steps to be a Court of Appeals judge. What a blessing. Jacques, a historian and activist and teacher. Julie, a physician. And Cherie, an executive within a Fortune 500 company. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, and you got to give a tremendous amount of credit to all of the wonderful mothers out there. My mother, your mother, Ashanti's mother, and of course the outstanding Sybil Morial, who was the rock of the family and provided love and guidance and tutelage. And we could never pay homage enough. In the African American church, we have a saying, as you both know, we like to give you your roses while you're living. And while we know Mrs. Morial is now gone to the great heaven to be with Dutch and other family members that have passed, Fortunately, in the 90-plus years that she's lived, we've been giving her roses. While she was alive, she's been honored and recognized many times before. And she's going to be with Jesus, but her memory will be with us forever.
Yeah, she was quite a phenomenal woman. And if you want to read more about the life of Sybil Morial, Think 504 did an amazing piece speaking to a lot of the things Senator Wesley Bishop said, a lot of the things, Congressman, that you said about Miss Morial. She was quite the woman, quite the beacon. And I, as Senator Bishop was talking, I was thinking about the family structure, and the Obamas came to mind, because the same feeling you had when you saw the Morials is how I felt when I saw the Obamas on the stage, mother, father, children, one family unit. So we know that there's Black love and Black family, and it exists.
Absolutely.
And no matter what the statistics tell us, that Black men want to parent and want to be heads of their household. So it's a wonderful thing to hear, because I was very young. So it's a wonderful thing to hear about the life of Sybil Morial and what she contributed to this city. So thank you, Congressman Carter, for honoring her in such a way this morning.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to. And listen, a shout out to all the mothers out there. We highlight the beautiful fact of what an honor it was for us to see the perfect example of the love and leadership that came from the Morial family. And you're right, you mentioned the family unit, which some criticize our communities for not having it as representative as perhaps others, where mothers or grandmothers or even grandfathers or fathers raise children without the benefit of both parents present. And while we certainly love and respect and pay homage to the wonderful role models that the Morials and the Obamas present to us, we also know that there are a number of mothers and grandmothers out there playing the role of mother and father and doing a heck of a great job in raising their children under the circumstances that they have and are producing incredible kids. So shout out to all those mothers, grandmothers, aunties, nannies, and everything else that are raising amazing kids and are raising amazing families with limited resources.
So Congressman Carter, the last time you were here, we were talking about the infrastructure dollars that are coming to the state. And I know that you're doing a lot of work in terms of infrastructure in the river parishes. Would you like to talk to us about those things that you are personally, the dollars you're personally drawing to this state?
Thank you. Yeah, so we had a big week last week. We're in eastern New Orleans, as the senator just mentioned, with 17 big checks going to organizations and agencies that will directly impact the quality of life and property values and safety and infrastructure of eastern New Orleans. Chief among them is the one I'm most proud of is Lincoln Beach. The three very courageous leaders, Reggie, Sage, and Bliss, brought to my attention and the rest of the world's attention the need to revitalize this Jim Crow era beach that was established for African Americans because we weren't allowed on other beaches. It's fallen in great disrepair, and now we are well on our way to bringing that beach back to full use for our entire community. Yesterday I was in the river parishes, which is another huge part of my district, to deliver money for infrastructure needs there to push back against issues of flooding, providing enhanced flood protection and infrastructure for King Avenue, which is a major thoroughfare in the town of Lutcher that connects other communities but has horrific flooding issues. So with this Phase 2 funding, we will be able to complete that project, which is huge for the small town of Lutcher. And I emphasize the small town of Lutcher because when I ran for Congress, I made a commitment to every part of my district that I would treat every part of the 2nd Congressional District equally, that I would not only concentrate on the larger cities, but that I would zero in on the rural parts of our state that doesn't always get the level of attention or funding because of the sheer size. And so I wanted to demonstrate, again, in word and in deed, that our rural parishes are very important to us. They're very important to every component of the 2nd Congressional District. And yesterday was a testament to the hard work of our parish presidents, our mayors, our school board members, our dynamic state legislators that represent those areas, the port, and the incredible commissioners that work there, who keep commerce on the river going, having federal dollars to go to enhance the operations of the Port of South Louisiana, as well as monies for the town of Lutcher, was a great day for me personally to be able to deliver on a promise made, but also a great day for the recipients, the great leaders of Lutcher, Mayor St. Pierre, Paul with the port, our parish presidents, Jacqueline Hotard and Pete Dufresne, our sheriff, Mike Trigg, and so many others, Senator Price and State Representative Ken Brass. I can go on and on and on, and my partners that worked in these projects together, but yesterday was indeed a great day to demonstrate the importance of rural Louisiana and the river parishes.
And Congressman, I know that you've worked extremely hard. I personally know Senator Price. I personally know Representative Brass and the work that they've done in that particular area. And I know that before too long, I know it's been several years that particular area, I guess, was added to the 2nd Congressional District. So in the past, usually the city of New Orleans was the primary focus for the 2nd Congressional District. But now with the city of New Orleans along those river parishes, as well as going into Baton Rouge to actually deal with that, it's extremely important to make sure that happens. One thing I'm looking at right now, and I want to make sure that I give you credit for that, we have a situation whereby you gave 3 different 500,000 contributions, one to the town of Lutcher, to the Port of South Louisiana, another one to the Port of South Louisiana, a $500,000 benefit to deal with a master drainage plan project, and then an additional $500,000 to King Avenue. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, King Avenue. The port, of course, is essential because the Port of South Louisiana, as you know, Louisiana is fortunate to have multiple ports, and our river is one of the strongest assets that we have. And as much as it is utilized, we really haven't scratched the surface on what we can really do when we apply the proper amount of funding and attention to our ports and to our mighty Mississippi. We once were number one, and I am committed to having our port system be number one again, recognizing the significance of the Port of New Orleans, Port of South Louisiana, all the ports that we have in our region are critically important to move commerce up and down the river. We connect the world. The Mississippi River and our ports keep the lights on, keep the supplies coming, keep the food. Every time you get one of those Amazon packages, every time you get one of those deliveries, every time you go to the grocery store or to get your rice and beans and your coffee, that's coming right through the ports. And so investing in our ports and making sure that we're putting those resources in are critically important, as well as we know in Louisiana, we're a great state in a challenged place, meaning, we've got natural disasters. We got hurricanes, tornadoes that come, and they come at rapid pace, and they leave terror in their path. We have to continue to build resiliently to restore our coast, to fortify our levees, to increase our drainage, to make sure that we can handle these storms as they come. And so these contributions will go a long way to investing in the future of the river parishes, investing in our port, making sure that they're resilient, that they're sound, and that we're maximizing the profitability and the utility of the river.
Well, Congressman Carter, I too want to thank you. I know Senator Wesley Bishop thanked you earlier, but I want to thank you for your accessibility to the listeners of WBOK, to the people in this community, to the citizens of this state. Ms. Barber called last week with an issue in the cutoff, and between you, I, and Ms. Jones, who called in to give us Ms. Barber's information, we were able to get that information over to you. And I want to say on air that you asked for it. You asked me to make certain that I patch you through to her, and I did so. And I just want to thank you for your advocacy on behalf of the state of Louisiana. But we have to go to break, but you're going to stay with us, right? You're
Yes,
going to
I
be
will.
on the other side of the
Absolutely.
break. Reverend Calhoun is on the phone. I want you to hold Reverend Calhoun because, you know, he's really smart, and I'm sure he has a really dynamic question for you, Senator. So if you want to talk, Congressman, if you want to talk to your congressman, the number here is 504-582-9422. On the other side of the break, we will have more from Congressman Troy Carter. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Behind the glass is Nyron holding us down. And in studio with me is Senator Wesley Bishop.
Wake up, New Orleans.
Wake up. It's a good morning. Thank you for listening to WBOK 1230 AM, the station you listen to all day long.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. JD Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. For JD Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
New Orleans, this is Jamar McNeely, Chief Executive Officer in Spinola Charter Schools. I'm excited to invite you to an incredible event you don't want to miss. The NOLA Love, Inspiration, Advocacy Rally featuring legendary Bishop T.D. Jakes. Join us on September 6th at 10 a.m. at Xavier's Convocation Center as we come together to uplift our community, inspire change, and advocate for the future of our youth. This is your chance to be a part of something truly powerful. RSVP now at inspirenolaschools.org. We'll see you there.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, an on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon to What's Growing New Orleans, hosted by Angel Vanderpool. What's Growing New Orleans is a weekly conversation about developing and growing Black businesses throughout the region. Brought to you by the New Orleans Regional Black Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, and we're back. We're talking to Congressman Troy Carter, and we have Reverend Calhoun online too. Rev, good morning.
Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning. First, let me give my condolences to the Morial family. So as you have already described her as a quintessential woman that she was. But Congressman, I really want to thank you for the representation you're doing, I should say, for the entirety of your congressional district. I don't know of any other congressperson that's bringing. Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Go ahead, brother.
Yes, yeah. I don't know of any other congressman that has brought or bringing as much money back to their district as you have. One of the things that I'm really looking into is, where is the Democratic Party in New Orleans with their support for Kamala? What is there any rallies, anything that you know of that's being planned to try to get our people out to vote, to make sure that crazy man, I mean Mr. Y'all president, y'all whoever he was, don't get near the White House. So I'm just trying to find out, is there anything planned by the Black Caucus? Is there anything that we as a unit will come together to promote the election of Kamala? So if you would, I'll just sit back and listen.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Calhoun. Thank you for your incredible leadership and tireless effort. Everywhere I go, I look up, there's Reverend Calhoun, an incredible activist that has been known and recognized for calling it as he sees it and standing up and fighting for it. We're so appreciative of you and the great work that you do in our community. I'm proud to announce that last night, under the leadership of Leslie Bowie, the chairman of the Orleans Parish Democratic Executive Committee, she held a hearing out at Southern University, New Orleans, to discuss the ills of Project 2025. It was a standing room only audience to talk about the importance of this election, talk about the dangers of Trump 2025, and to talk about the importance of everyone in that room, again, a packed room, being deputized to go out and tell everyone the importance of voting for Kamala Harris, of the importance of making it happen. As you know, in 1988, when Jesse Jackson ran for president, he popularized and made famous this not popularized, he quoted and coined this phrase: "You can't hope me in, you have to vote me in." And that has to be our theme. You can't hope Kamala in, you have to vote Kamala in. And so the momentum is on our side. That former president you spoke of represents everything that's anti-democratic, that's anti-inclusion, anti-rule of law, anti-constitution. So Republican, Democrat, black or white, you should reject the notion that we will dismantle the Department of Education, that we will dismantle the EPA with all the gains that we've made in pushing back against environmental injustice, that you will dismantle the rights of women while we are trying to restore the rights of women. This individual has made it clear that if elected, you won't have another election, which demonstrates his desire to dismantle the democracy and to create a tyranny, a dictatorship, where we have no rights and we're under the rule of one family and not one person, one vote. So, yes, the answer to your question is the Democratic Party under the leadership of Randall Gaines has been going throughout the state having such rallies. I know next week there's going to be a series of watch parties to watch the debate, where we know that our Vice President, soon-to-be President Kamala Harris, will wax this bully, former President Trump, in a debate. And we will continue to build on the momentum of doing just as you said, from the Congressional Black Caucus to the Legislative Black Caucus to the Orleans Parish Democratic Executive Committee and all of the DPECs across the state, as well as the Louisiana State Democratic Party. There will, in fact, be, just as you mentioned, a series of rallies and house parties and watch parties and seminars and workshops like we did last night, all designed to educate, motivate, and activate the vote for November 5th.
Thank you. Listen, every time you come on Thursday, the phone lines are lit up. We have Aaron on line 3. Good morning.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me?
We can.
All right. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Brother Aaron.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. First off, shouts out to the Fatherhood Roundtable as well as the People's Political Party. Congressman, myself, and other concerned citizens of the city of New Orleans are wondering, with all of the atrocities that Mitch Landrieu has done to not just the black community, but also black contractors in the city of New Orleans, is you or Brother Troy or Brother Cedric Richmond is going to step up and let either President Biden know or Vice President Kamala Harris that know that he's no good for their campaign nor for black people. Because we see what he did as it relates to our community, as it relates to the city of New Orleans, and not just that. When former Ray Nagin and the brother from NOAA, before it became NOAA Sea, got their money from that Nike contract, and they fixed the gym in the city of New Orleans, and they put the plaque on the wall honoring Mayor Ray Nagin, and they also put Mayor Ray Nagin's name on that gym floor. As soon as Mitch Landrieu became mayor, one of the first things he did was remove that plaque and also remove the name of former Mayor Ray Nagin's name off the gym floor. And we're not going to even talk about the black contracts that he distorted and made and gave to his people. So what we want to know is one of y'all going to take and bring that to the attention of President Biden as well as soon-to-be President Kamala Harris?
Thank you for that question, Aaron.
Watching, I'm going to hang up and listen. Peace.
Hey, Brother Aaron, thank you for your commentary, and thank you for our community. Black contractors are essential that we recognize and provide resources to make sure that our black contractors have an opportunity to participate in the windfall of everything that happens in this community. And we know that hasn't always been the case. As it relates to the dynamics of what happened with the gym, if that's an atrocity, you're bringing something to my attention I wasn't aware happened. But the work of any former mayor or any leader demonstrates the work they did when they were in office and should stand as a memorial of the work they did, notwithstanding whatever may have happened after that. So I'm not aware of that, but I'm sure the listeners are hearing it, and the powers that be in local government who has that authority now certainly have the ability to make that right and to correct that under the Cantrell administration and this city council. And the other part about whatever the former mayor history or work is, as you know, to work in the White House or to play a role in the campaign, there is a substantive vetting process. The issues you mentioned are not the first time that people have shared their opinion on what any elected officials may or may not have done. Rest assured that vetting process goes far and deep, and the White House is aware of your concerns and many others of anybody that's close to the White House or the vetting process for people to be a part of that administration.
Well, Congressman, we have one more caller. Cedric is on line 2. Cedric, are you there? Good morning.
Good morning.
Cedric, good morning.
Hey, Congressman Carter, I got to kind of piggyback off of what the previous caller, Brother Aaron, just said. First and foremost, we have ride sharing because of former Mayor Landrieu. This ride sharing hurt the cab industry, as I know you well know. And this is the cab industry is an industry that he courted to get their votes and their support. And once he got their vote and support, well, ride sharing came in. What I don't understand is, for the life of me, because I'm pro New Orleans, and I'm going to bring this to a close, is I'm sure the president and the vice president of this great United States have to know that this mayor, who is in charge of, I believe, the czar program, many hundreds of millions of dollars, a billion, whatever it is, has killed black businesses, small businesses. So that truly needs to be addressed. And then, Congressman, when will some of this campaign money touch the city of New Orleans?
Great question, Shedrick. Thank you for your question. Congressman?
Yeah, if you live long enough, you're gonna, and you serve long enough, there'll be pros and cons to your leadership. And again, I'll go back to my earlier comment about the former mayor, Mitch Landrieu. There's a very deep and wide vetting process that the White House. I don't exactly know how it scores, but nothing in a person's past goes unnoticed when going through that vetting process to be a part of the campaign or to be a part of the White House. In the history of the things that you guys mentioned are very much a part of that vetting. As it relates to campaign dollars coming into New Orleans, as you know, unfortunately, New Orleans, Louisiana, rather, is represented on the map as a red state. We know better. We know that Louisiana long has been a blue state, and it'll be a blue state again when we vote. And when we vote, we demonstrate our strength on the national playing field. But as a red state, unfortunately, we won't get the level of attention that blue states get because we have to demonstrate to the party, we have to demonstrate to the national stage that Louisianians are going to vote. So there's going to be money coming in, but not nearly the money I would want to be in because we have to demonstrate that we're not going to stay home. We had a gubernatorial race that was decided with 36% of the vote. 36% of the vote. And we just can't have that happen anymore. So I will advocate for every penny possible to get to all the organizations, to get on the streets of not only New Orleans, but every particular place in Louisiana to turn it blue again.
Well,
and
as you said, Congressman,
we can't join with me on that.
We can't hope her in. We have to vote her in. So thank you much, as you always do every Thursday, for addressing the needs of the people. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your advocacy on behalf of this state. On the other side of the break, we will talk to Selwyn Jones, the uncle, I believe, of George Floyd. So join us on the other side of the break, WBOK 1230, the station you listen to.
Thank you, Congressman. All day long.
God bless you both. God bless you. Thank you.
WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Republican Liz Cheney is officially endorsing Kamala Harris for president. The former Wyoming representative gave her endorsement during an appearance at Duke University, saying she's endorsing Harris because of the danger Donald Trump poses. An Ohio man who filed a racial discrimination lawsuit has agreed to a settlement with the city of Toledo. Sammy Coleman, who is black, says that he was repeatedly passed over for promotions due to his race. Coleman works for the city's Road and Bridge Management Division. The prosecutor in Alec Baldwin's Rust trial is asking the judge to reconsider her ruling. The actor was accused of accidentally shooting and killing the cinematographer on the set of the film in 2021, but back in July, the judge dismissed the trial on its third day. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Celebrating hardworking teachers of New Orleans Public Schools is what we do best. Join New Schools for New Orleans, All-State, Sugar Bowl, and Integer New Orleans in recognizing and celebrating the Teachers of the Year at our 3rd annual New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Awards Gala. If you want to check out the awardees in the schools where they teach at, please visit noeta, noeta.org. You can also purchase tickets to the gala via the website too. Let's send these teachers some love for all the hard work they do with our students.
Good Thursday morning. I'm Deja Brown with WDSU News, and here's a look at your traffic. We are accident-free on our interstate systems, but dealing with some major problems on our surface streets. Look out for a crash if you're traveling through Wagaman right now, River Road at Avondale Garden Drive. Also still dealing with a crash blocking your left lane, St. Claude Avenue at Poland on the westbound side of the St. Claude Avenue Bridge, and the Judge Seaver Bridge is still shut down in both directions for some emergency repairs, so St. Claude is going to be your best alternate, but expect some delays. Also dealing with a new crash for you if you're traveling along Franklin near North Russia Blade, causing some understacking on the approach. Side out to the downtown area, 48 minutes. Kenner to downtown, 26 minutes, and 17 minutes as you travel from the West Bank between Lafayette and the I-10 merge. I'm Deja Brown. That's a check of your traffic on WBOK 1230 a.m.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 a.m.
Good morning, New Orleans, and we're back. I am Dr. Ashanti Wyatt. In studio with me is Senator Wesley Bishop, and behind the glass holding everything together is Nyrad. I couldn't do it without him. He's awesome.
Good morning, New Orleans. Good morning. We just had a phenomenal conversation with Congressman Troy Carter, the 2nd Congressional District representing New Orleans, the River Parishes, as well as Baton Rouge. He just stepped off, but one thing we talked about was Lincoln Beach. And I think that we really can't give enough emphasis to Lincoln Beach and the importance that it plays to the city of New Orleans. As I talk to my parents are 88 and 85 years old. So they talk about the time when they first moved to the city of New Orleans from Magnolia and Tylertown, Mississippi. And that was the one place where they could go because, as you know, at that time, Punch Train Beat wasn't something that we could access as African Americans. And to see individuals really putting the kind of energy together to making Lincoln Beach a reality, we can't say enough about everybody that's been working, but particular interest needs to be played to Sage, Bliss, and Reggie. Because long before this was popular, long before this was on the front page of newspapers, they were back there doing the actual work, moving tons and tons and tons of garbage with the idea that at some point in time, we're going to be able to move forward with that. And one thing that I'm extremely proud of, having represented that area for several years, is that our host, but the current councilman, Oliver Chalmers, in the 2 years' time that he's been in office, you now have a situation whereby we've been able to fund this particular project to the tune of $24.6 million, and he got it done in 2 years. We've been trying to get this done for the last 20 years.
Yeah, shout out to Sage, shout out to Reggie, shout out to Bliss, and a special shout out to Councilman Oliver Thomas, Mr. 9th Ward, for making certain that his district is well cared for. And I want to say specifically to Sage and Bliss, they were doing this work, and Reggie kind of just a regular individual, didn't need permission from anybody. He saw what they were doing and he wanted to assist. And he's been integral to making Lincoln Beach what it is, as we presently see it. It's beautiful,
absolutely,
isn't it? And I want to thank everyone who was able to allocate that funding to make certain that that project can reach its full potential. So shout out to them.
And it's interestingly enough, you actually kind of see it on the fast track. I've had a chance to sit in on some of the meetings regarding that particular piece. And what I'm hearing is that it's been placed on the fast track so much so that hopefully by this time next summer, you actually see a lot of what we're talking about, and not just the plans that we've seen in many of the planning sessions that have been out in the community. They're a part of that. I've been to maybe 3 different sessions where people had the opportunity to pick, well, I like this, I like that. So the city community really get involved in putting that together. I think it really is kudos to all the individuals who are part of this process.
Oh, absolutely. And Senator, I don't know if you know, but September is Suicide Prevention Month. And because we were talking about the shooting in Georgia, I think it's only appropriate to talk about suicide prevention in the month of September. You can visit NAMI.org for more information, or you can call, text, or chat 988. Mental health care is health care. right, Senator Bishop? I mean, I think a lot of our children, specifically in parts of this country that feel left out and forgotten, are struggling. They're traumatized, and all too often they reach for weapons to solve disputes because we don't have any real conflict resolution skills in our schools. We don't have really any mental health professionals embedded in our schools full time. And so September is the month to really talk about that, but we really should be talking about mental health care all year round.
Doc, I could not agree with you more. I've had personal experience with that. One of my former employees was a young lady. As you know, I taught at Southern University at New Orleans for almost 25 years. And a student who was a former work study student of mine committed suicide several years ago. And it broke my heart when it actually happened. And I guess what probably broke my heart more so than anything else, Dr. Wyatt, is that I didn't notice what was going on. I didn't pay enough of attention. And I wasn't that, I guess, as familiar with that as I should have been. And I always think back about, is there something that I could have done differently? So I guess with that in mind, I now try and pay attention to that. You are absolutely correct. We don't have the professionals in place who are trained to watch for this kind of behavior, so we can step in and kind of interject ourselves when there's a need to actually do that, to hopefully to stop and to prevent some of these situations from happening. So hopefully we can get better at doing that. But as you mentioned, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and I would just like to make a personal call out to everyone under the sound of our voices right now. Pay attention to your families. Pay attention to your friends. Oftentimes, people suffer in silence, and when they suffer in silence, if you're not really paying attention, oftentimes different things can kind of go under radar, and we don't want to have a situation where we're talking about, again, what I could have done when we could possibly take some action right now.
Listen, Senator, I don't know if it's you or me, but the people want to talk. They are calling the phone, so we're going to take a call. Line 1, we have John. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Carter and distinguished WBOK guests. How are y'all this morning?
We're great. How are you?
Pretty good. What I want to ask you, Senator Carter, the money that's supposed to be for the black farmers, has that money hit the bank yet, or when can you expect movement on that?
Sir, the Congressman Carter actually is not on the line right now. We will take note of that particular question that you're asking, and hopefully, and we can get your number offline. We'll make sure we can get that and try to get that information.
Okay, let me add one more thing to that.
Sure.
I need to know, we need to know, be concerned, what is the language in that bill? Because if they have that infinite people of color, we know how that goes. Everybody else is going to come in and backdoor that money, and very little of it is going to go to the farmers.
I mean,
and
that's a good point, John. That's a good point, and I will definitely.
No tricky language. Also, make sure it has no tricky language in there where on page 96, article such and such, you were supposed to buy the 300 count bag of seed. You bought the $320 count bag of seed. So now you violated such and such, so we can claw back the money. Little petty things like that you don't catch right off, but they can trip you up, sort of like what happened with the road home disaster.
John, that's a real concern. And I'm saying, as you were sitting here talking, I'm sitting here thinking about the time I spent in the legislature, and oftentimes one word or one two-letter word can be the difference between getting $1 and getting $1 billion.
I told you the WBOK listeners are very bright.
If anything with that people of color, if that horse is going, it's not going to run. It's going to drop dead in the stall. Trust me.
Well, thank you, John, and I'm going to personally share your concerns with Congressman Troy Carter. And as you know, he's very responsive, particularly to the listeners of WBOK, because he knows there's going to be follow-up. So thank you for your question and your concern. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
What do you think about that, though? I mean, that's a very good point that he made. The language in the bill.
It's absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen bills whereby the difference between a shall and a may is $1 billion.
Yeah.
And you would look at it and you would gloss right over it, not actually thinking, not knowing what you're looking for.
Uh-huh.
So when he actually made that particular statement, and that people of color, as opposed to African Americans, as opposed to something else, you always need to be extremely specific with it, because if you're not extremely specific, the other side is looking at trying to figure out a way to find a loophole.
But isn't that crazy how we have to be extremely specific when it comes to black folk and black interests, you have to be very specific
It-
so you don't get backdoored. I'm sure Miss Alicia has a lot to say on this topic. Miss Alicia is online too. Good morning. You're on with Dr. Wyatt and Senator Wesley Bishop.
Good morning, Alicia.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm glad y'all circled back to what I was calling about. But first, let me say this to the Ron Eagles out there: we owe our vanity plate, the McDonald 35 license plate. We're the first black school in the state of Louisiana with our own vanity plate, and that was because of Senator Wesley Bishop. And I think you did that when you were a representative. I remember when you first won for representative, I begged you, I told you, this is the two things I want you to do. Get 35 their own license plate and put those signs on the interstate where to show all the businesses at each exit so that we can draw that traffic off the interstate and into New Orleans East to patronize our businesses out there. So I thank you for that. And Ron Negus, y'all need to know we got to thank Senator Bishop for those things in New Orleans East. When they're talking about the billboards, they need to take advantage of those signs you put out on the interstate and put their businesses on there so when people need somewhere to eat, they'll know, look on that the little green signs to pull off on that interstate to come into your businesses.
Thank you,
Which is,
Alicia. I
think,
appreciate it.
which
I
is-
appreciate it.
Which I think is cheaper than a billboard. Now, this other thing I wanted to say, in your role as in Councilman Oliver Thomas's office, nobody could be a better advocate than you. You're so great. What I would like for you all to do for me, talking about Lincoln Beach, I have a complaint about the procurement process.
Okay.
Because I want to know how this same security company out of Mississippi get this. I'm hearing that they're the ones who awarded the next contract. How did they get it over people who are here, businesses who are here? And I've done my research on that company, and they do not have a stellar background and reputation in business. And like Dr. White always says, it seems like something ain't clean in the water. So I would like for you to follow up on that, the procurement process, how this same company get this permanent security position over qualified black companies here in New Orleans. So that's the things I want to say. And y'all seem like y'all a good team. I would better watch out.
Thank you, Miss
Y'all have
Alicia.
a
We
great
appreciate
day.
you so
Thank you,
much.
Alicia.
Thank you. Listen, I enjoy what I do here at WBOK. I never considered myself a morning person,
Mm-hmm.
but when I get up every morning and I have to talk to and with OT, he makes the morning easier. So I like you and all, Senator Wesley Bishop, but I like my coworker. So I need him to come back. I miss him already, but you're welcome to come back anytime you want to. Your expertise is invaluable.
I'm going back to work when I leave here, so no, I'm good. I am good.
So you're not coming for Oliver's spot? I can't have
Oh,
you
no,
doing that.
not at all.
I gotta have his back now.
Oh, absolutely.
Senator Bishop,
Absolutely.
I gotta have his back.
That's my councilman.
But thank you, Miss Alicia. I told you the listeners of WBOK are extremely bright and brilliant. And if you want to continue to support WBOK, we need y'all to buy some ads. Tune in on all social media platforms. Share it with somebody. Tell a friend. Bring a friend. So if you have a business and you want your business to have some airtime, choose WBOK.
Absolutely, absolutely. And something just kind of crossed my mind when I heard I mention that. We talked about Lincoln Beach and everything that's actually going on. And I think my date is correct, but this is not this upcoming week, but the following week, the 21st, the third weekend of the month of September. We're talking about New Orleans East. We're talking about the Lower Ninth Ward. But the New Orleans East, the third annual New Orleans East Festival, in which Councilman Thomas actually founded and co-sponsors and puts together, that's going to be a phenomenal event that's actually going on. And so there's a lot of work that's going on with that particular piece. And so I just wanted to mention that because I know that we've been working extremely hard to make that a reality. And we're looking forward to having a family-friendly event for the entire city of New Orleans, particularly for New Orleans East and District 8.
Absolutely. I think that talking about and continuing to uplift the East is paramount to its survival. I take great offense, and I'm not from the East, but I'm from New Orleans, and so I viciously protect the city of New Orleans, with everything I have, especially when I hear the misinformation or the disinformation that's put out there. Yesterday, we were talking about how people are flocking to this city, flocking to this state, flocking to parts of New Orleans, East Treme, but they continue to tell native New Orleanians how bad these areas are. And how high in crime they are. There are no good schools. There's no good jobs. But if all of that is not good, then why are you coming by the caravan load? Like, why are you coming here if it's so bad? And so that is my saying. Something in the water ain't clean.
Dr. White, I have the good fortune to listen to a lot of different events and listen to a lot of different meetings that talk about New Orleans. And what's so unfortunate about it is that right in this New Orleans East, it doesn't matter what the issue is. As we speak right now, for the last several years, that's all folks were talking about, crime this and crime that. New Orleans East has the lowest crime rates in the entire city of New Orleans as we speak.
Say it again
right
for
now.
The people in the back.
New Orleans East has the lowest crime rates in the entire city of New Orleans as we speak right now. The number one elementary school in the state of Louisiana is in New Orleans East right now, Lake Forest Charter. How do I know? Because both of my sons go to school there. And so when we see what's going on, education, crime, all the things that people look at to talk about the quality of life and what's going on, there's no other place that you should want to be than in New Orleans East. I said it, and I will say it again.
Spoken like a real New Orleanian. So on the other side of the break, we're going to talk all things local and national news. We have to apologize for Selwyn Jones. There was an emergency that prevented Selwyn from being here, but I'm sure we'll talk to Selwyn in the near future about the George Floyd case and what has come to light since his senseless murder. But please continue to join us at WBOK 1230, the station you listen to all day long. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, and studio is Senator Wesley Bishop, and on the other side of the glass, holding it down, is Nyron. Catch us on the other side of the break. All things local and national news.
Start your day off right.
Just getting your day started.
Early morning gospel on WBOK 1230 AM.
Welcome back to school, families and scholars. NOLA Public Schools is excited to kick off another exciting year of learning, growth, and success. Our dedicated teachers have been preparing all summer to provide an engaging and enriching experience for every student. Let's embrace new challenges, celebrate achievements, and make this school year the best one yet. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS by visiting our social media channels. Here's to a year filled with curiosity, creativity, and community. Attend today, achieve tomorrow. Are you passionate about community safety and police accountability? Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Get the facts and stay informed. We're breaking down complex issues, highlighting community voices, and holding people behind the badge accountable. Join us for an informative hour every Friday at noon on WBOK. Your city, your police, your show. The Monitor's Mic.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, an on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Delgado Community College offers programs in business, technology, health sciences, and the arts with over 100 career-focused degrees and certificates that are affordable, flexible, and transferable. We can give you the knowledge and skills to succeed. Delgado is a great fit if you're starting your post-high school education, or we can help you advance or change your career. Take a step toward being unstoppable at Delgado Community College. Visit dcc.edu to learn more today.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
are back. Good morning, everybody. We are back. I'm sitting in studio with Senator Wesley Bishop. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt, and as we were talking off air, we see that the Trump and Harris campaigns have agreed to the ground rules for the September 10th debate. That's exciting. I wonder what those ground rules are, because I know Kamala's team wanted the mics to stay hot. And I know Trump was pushing back against that. I don't know if they met in the happy medium or not, but I'm looking forward to seeing what those ground rules are. I'm actually looking forward to September 10th in the debate. They're talking about watch parties. I might have to find me a watch party.
I am absolutely looking forward to the debate, and I think that this issue that they were dealing with is extremely important. When they talk about whether the mics are hot or not, if you just take a look at previous debates that have actually occurred, if only one mic is on, that means that while that mic is on, the other person can't actually come in. So if I say something and I lie about you outwardly, you then can't respond to that. But with having both you have a situation whereby you can respond to falsities, and we notice that whenever we look at that situation, it's really more of a circus than anything else with the other guy that's running for president. So I'm glad that they were able to agree to that particular ground rule. And I'm really looking forward to September 10th, and I will be there with bells on.
Listen, I'm wondering, Senator, if they're going to have live fact checking. That's one of the things I'm hoping that they have, because I know the National Black Journalists Group, I believe that there was a component there where they had like live fact checking. And so I think that's something to me that should be a part of all debates, nationally, locally, all forums. You should have somebody live fact-checking you so you don't misinform the voting populace.
And if they had not decided to do that beforehand, hopefully they're listening to WBOK and Dr. Ashanta Wyatt this morning, and they'll follow her lead and make sure that we put that together.
Because, I think it's important when you talk about misinformation, when you talk about disinformation, just flat-out lies, right? Yes. If you are a novice or you don't really understand the political arena, a lie can sound very true to you, and you have no one to say, well, wait a minute, that's partially true, right? Because, sometimes people sprinkle a little truth in there, but the totality of it is misinformation. But if you don't have anybody fact-checking, then you're misinforming the voting populace. And so that's why you have so many people talking about Donald Trump is responsible for that $1,200 stimulus that they received, right? They think he actually went in his pocket or went in Mar-a-Lago somewhere in a safe and got the money and personally gave it to them. But that's the misinformation we're talking about.
Well, Doc, it's been said many, many times ago that a lie can travel around the world before the truth takes one step out the door.
Right.
And it's so unfortunate. And oftentimes people just begin to lie continually, and people tend to listen to it, particularly with someone that's gullible and they're willing to try and figure out a way how that can be the truth anyway. We know that this is probably going to be a close race, and that every vote matters, every issue matters, and our energy matters. And so this particular debate for many individuals might be the very last time that they have the opportunity. As we speak, I understand that there are some states whereby ballots are going out already. Yeah. So while we're talking about maybe 60 days before the election, it's a much shorter window than that. So we want to make sure we actually do that and get individuals who are looking to see what's going on to really understand what's happening, what's at stake here, and we get one shot to get this right.
What do you think about, one of our listeners said, people should be allowed to think for themselves. Fact checkers are paid to steer the thought. And before you respond, I'm going to push the thought and say this. That's what we want, fact checkers. We don't want anybody to put their opinion inside the fact. Yeah. We want them to check the things that are coming out of the mouths of the people who are running to control this nation, right? So if Kamala says something, there should be somebody live fact-checking the things that she's saying so that we do not misinform the voting populace. If Trump says something, there should be somebody fact-checking what he said, not what we interpret that he said, what he said. Correct. So we got to take our opinion and our emotions and our feelings out of it so that we don't steer the thought of the American people. What do you think about that?
I agree with you 1,000,000%.
I like when people agree with me 1,000,000%.
I absolutely do. I do. I think it's so critical because you have a situation whereby, and that plays on both sides. I mean, if you just totally kind of take yourself out of it, I happen to be someone who supports Vice President Harris and she's fact checked and she's caught to be wrong, then the other side is going to say, see, this is what's happening, yada, yada, yada. On the other side, if I happen to be a supporter of Donald Trump and that occurs. So I understand that particular piece there, but just be fair, straight across the board. And when you talk about fact checking, applying to both sides,
Right.
And being able to look, if somebody says that when I was the vice president, I did this, and
That's
this.
easy.
Well, that's
to
easy
check.
to check.
Yes.
When he says, well, when I was president, I did this, that's easy to check. Both of these individuals have held either the number 1 or the number 2 highest position in federal government.
Yes.
So there's nothing that can be hidden as far as what's actually going on.
Or,
so no,
or
I agree with you.
even, Senator, when you talk about what their voting record is, if you voted for something that is a part of the record, it's easily verifiable. So I think what the commenters worry is, who are the fact checkers, and how do we make certain that we're vetting the fact checkers? But I would like to see some entity live fact checking, and maybe having a thing scrolling on at the bottom of the screen to correct things that are being said, because people will misinform the voting populace. There are so many people who are misinformed about what the former president has and has not done for this country. There are people who are misinformed about what Kamala has or has not done as in her time as a prosecutor. But I also think they don't know the definition of prosecutor. Because if I'm in charge of putting people in jail and you're complaining about me putting people in jail, I was just doing my job, right? Now, whether or not I did that with the fidelity that it deserved, that's a different conversation. But you can't blame her for simply putting people in jail, locking them up. Now, if there's a concern that she incarcerated black men, then let's talk about that. But as a prosecutor, that's the lane in which she was working for.
And piggybacking on something that you actually just said, I just thought about that. When we talk about if we're representing 2 different sides, and we're concerned that this side might say this or this side might say that, or both sides might not be fair, it kind of harkens me back to a time that, and whenever there's a situation, and we're going to go into a conversation talking about local politics in just a second, but whenever we have a situation whereby when there's an election, and after the election is over with, usually a few days after the election, each side gets to send somebody in to actually count the votes. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that whomever the third party is that's overseeing the process, that they don't interject their own personal feelings into that. Well, if I was running for such and such, and I send my campaign manager in, and you were running against me, and you send your campaign manager in, and they get the opportunity to see exactly what's happening, there's no question as to what's fair or not, because it's not a matter of being fair. It's the facts that we're actually dealing with. So I think that situation kind of goes directly to what you're talking about, making sure that we have fact checkers in place to check the facts, to leave our opinions at the door, and move forward with it. And with that in mind, let's talk a little about local politics, particularly if we talk about school board politics.
Well, education is the thermometer by which I measure, if I'm actually awake or not, because I always have an opinion one way or the other about education. And I know locally we have some really important school board races coming up. I believe it's District 2 and District 4, whereby there's a race. I think all of the other seats have been accounted for because there wasn't anybody running for those seats. But District 2 and District 4, we have Dr. Donaldo Batiste running against Katrina Griffin, I believe, are the 2 people in that race. And then in the other race, it is
Eric
Jones and Chan Tucker.
I believe. Yes.
But I do believe there's a third person in that race. I want to say her name is Gabrielle. Gabby is what she affectionately calls herself, but I believe there's a third. And Gabby is a hairdresser in the city of New Orleans. She does hair cosmetology work. I believe she's a mother. And I only know this because I just recently moderated the forum for Step Up.
Okay.
So I do believe that there is a third person in the school board race with Eric Jones and Chan Tucker.
Okay.
But I want people to be very diligent about understanding that local politics have a direct impact on your current quality of living. So where the presidential race is very important, where a governor's race is very important, you can't focus on a presidential race and ignore local politics, your mayoral races, right? Your sheriff races, your school board races, all of these things directly impact your quality of living. And so if you have not informed yourself, New Orleans, about what is on your ballot, you probably should start looking at it, because we do have some really important school board races, and there's no other person to talk about school board races with than Dr. Joseph Bowie, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have any questions that you want to have answered, he's a contributor here at WBOK. Absolutely. He's always willing to give his expertise. He was actually just at the forum at SUNO on Project 2025 talking about how the dismantling or the potential dismantling of the Department of Education will impact us, will impact our public schools, our public dollars, right? And so it's okay to focus on a presidential race, but we have to vote for more than just the president.
Dr. White, as you know, Dr. Joseph Bowie is my former chancellor at Southern University at New Orleans, my former colleague in the State House and the State Senate. And there is no one who has a heart for the city of New Orleans and for the children of New Orleans more so than Dr. Joseph Bowie. Long before he got elected, he had a heart for those. So without question, that is extremely important. And we started to talk about the school board, and I think what makes it so critical, one of the more, and like I said, I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, but I remember when we were trying to make a decision as to where my kid was actually going to school. That was probably the most difficult decision that we had to make, because every parent has the same concern. They want the best for their children. But oftentimes when you looked around the city of New Orleans and trying to make that decision as to not just where you would send your kid to school, but what options you had to send your kids to school. And oftentimes that made it somewhat difficult. And being able to do that, I think we always need to have a situation whereby every kid in the city of New Orleans, regardless of where you live, no matter what side of the tracks you live on, there needs to be a quality school for every kid that's actually there. And so it's important to have that, because oftentimes what happens in kindergarten translates to what happens in 5th grade and what happens by the time you get out of high school. But we want to make sure that all individuals have that opportunity in the city of New Orleans. And that's one of the things I think that as we speak, we're still working on, because as most people will tell you, what's crazy about the city of New Orleans, you don't necessarily have a school system. You have a system of schools. And that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day that you probably should be the host to talk about.
Listen, I can talk all things education every day.
Okay.
And if you want to talk to us and join in on this conversation, the phone line here is 504-582-9422. And just as I was saying that, we have a caller, Lindell, on line 1. Good morning.
Good morning. I probably should have waited until after break. I'm glad you brought this up. I've been listening, and I wasn't going to call in, but I wanted to call in, especially after yesterday's conversation. Good morning, Senator Bishop.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Wyatt. I apologize to you all for not giving greetings. Let me give my little anecdote about Senator Bishop right quick. The guy is a good guy and a guy of his word. It was a few years ago, I think it was in 2017. We were together one Sunday. I bumped into him, and I asked him, I admired a shirt he had on. And I asked him, where did he get the shirt? And he said, he told me. He said, but I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure you get that information. That afternoon, I'm like, he was really busy. I knew what he was doing that day, and so was I. And I remember getting home later on that afternoon, I looked at my email, and I saw where he sent me the name of the place, Charles Tuitt.
Charles Tuitt. I got that shirt on, right? Yes.
Yeah. And he sent me these coupons and everything with it, man. And I thought to myself, damn, of all the stuff he was doing today and as busy as he was, he remembered that one small thing. And it may be small to some, but for me, having a word was a very good thing. Now, going back to where we were, I thought about the conversation you all had yesterday, Dr. Wyatt, with Oliver. And you all were talking about voting and, things of that nature. Councilman Jeruso came on.
Yes.
Let me tell you what struck me. When I heard the amount of money that the city has been sitting on and all of the vacancies in the city's administration, it's okay to talk about Mitch Landrieu. But one of the commenters I just saw it said that this administration killed the contract for Jimmy Woods. Elvin Richards. Also, we talk about, let's go back to those positions. When you're sitting here in the city and you're talking about what can we do to fight crime, they're not doing anything. They don't give the kids in it. If the city has gotten rid of, the box that, says you're a felon or whatever, then why aren't you giving those people jobs? When you're holding these jobs vacant and they have nothing to do when you can actually help them, you're part of the problem. Now, the school board and education. Let me tell you the funniest thing to me. All of these folk, we give reverence, and I love Dr. Bowie. Senator Bishop, you know that I love Dr. Bowie. But the funny thing is that a lot of these folk who are saying, hey, look, let's support Dr. Bowie, let's get with them, let's do this with education, are the same folk who supported Leslie Jacobs and Kara Orange Jones. They were all on the cards for endorsements and everything. I'm baffled on how is it that we are supposed to come and do the voting thing when we see what we see, but we're not supposed to believe it. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. We're talking about education, but everyone who's out, we got educational problem. Not you all, but everyone. But I'm looking at the cards and I'm saying all these folk endorse these. All of these folk, and if we go to the campaign finance reports, let's not talk about who took the money. We're doomed. And it's almost like a joke to keep hearing the same thing, and nobody's going to take any accountability for the stuff that we actually have been doing to ourselves. That's crazy. That is actually crazy to me. I have jobs I'm sitting on that folk could actually use, even if you're a convicted felon, where everyone else is turning you down from being able to provide a shelter for your family, food on the table. We can do it in our own city. That's not being done. That's not being done under a black administration. That's a problem. That should be a problem. That should be a real concern. You have a person who's supposed to be with the juvenile justice program who happens to be a very close friend of the mayor's and don't even know a doggone thing about the job of which she's holding and sitting on money. And then when you have a problem with these ankle bracelets or whatever, we're talking about the judge opposed to the person who's supposed to administer the money to make sure that those types of things don't happen. Well, we really have a long way to go. But anyway, I just had to get that off my chest only because yesterday when I heard how much money was being sat on, how many vacancies we have in the city, and everything that's going on, and we keep asking, what do we do? How do we get this problem fixed or whatever or resolved? I'm like, this is crazy. And then you have a person to ask, well, are you all really concerned about what happened in the Pinetell? But you're damn right. If our money is being sat on and you're part of the problem, we're concerned about everything. We're concerned about everything. But you question when you question them. That is absolutely crazy to me. But I just wanted to get that off my chest from yesterday when I heard Councilman Jerusalem come in with that and when you all brought up the local politics today.
Thank you, Lindell. We appreciate your
You're
insight.
welcome.
Thank you so much for your call.
Right.
Any thoughts to that, Senator Bishop?
Well, a couple of things. I have the opportunity to attend most of the city council meetings that are actually there, and Councilman Eugene Green, probably more so than anybody else, always talks about the hundreds and hundreds of jobs that we have here in the city of New Orleans. Most folks who I know, one, are either at a job that they're happy at, they're content as to what's going on, but a probably much larger group of folks are looking for opportunities that are actually there, that have the kind of money they can raise their families on, the kind of benefits that they could use, and that they could actually not just have a job, but that can actually have a career. And I think that's extremely important so that as we take a look at that, to try and fill those opportunities that are actually there. I'm real big on making sure that individuals who've had a brush with the law get a second chance. I have a personal story as it relates to that. So I understand what it means to get a second chance and be able to move forward on that. So the same blessing that I was provided, I want to make sure that other individuals who are in a similar situation get that same blessing. So I want to make sure that that's always an opportunity for that. And for all the folks who are listening that are under the sound of our voices right now, the city of New Orleans, as we speak, has 400 to 500 jobs that need to be filled. You know, so if you're looking for an education, if you're looking for job opportunities, we want to make sure that you take advantage of that and see if there's something that's actually there that you want to take advantage of.
Yeah, good point, great point. But if you know me, then you know the part of his commentary that I focused on.
Okay.
And when Lindell first started talking, he said, how are we supposed to listen to people who are asking us to get out and vote, who are petitioning for our vote, but they're also working alongside the very people who are dismantling quality of life concepts such as healthcare and education and living wages, right? So if you are my senator or my congressman or my mayor and you're talking to me about the importance of voting, but I see you doing the work with the very same people who are dismantling these structures for me, how do I then believe in you or follow your advice or believe that you are on the right side of things for those native to this community? Because I do know, me, Ashanta, Dr. White, I do know that there is somebody out here personally working to dismantle public education. And if I see my senator and my congressman or my mayor or, my council person working with those people, then where am I left in that process?
That absolutely makes a great point, makes a great big deal of sense. From my personal experience, having served, I guess, in the legislature, typically most of and I've always represented either the lower Ninth Ward, New Orleans East, I've usually had African Americans as my primary constituency. So as a result, being a product of the public school system here in the city of New Orleans, and seeing situations whereby, that was a real big issue. Folks like Dr. Boyd, folks like other individuals, some who serve in the legislature, some who served on the city council, typically we had the opportunity to see things pretty similarly, and they were advocates for individuals and worked hard here in the city of New Orleans. Policy can be very interesting, Dr. White.
Absolutely.
And so you have a situation whereby oftentimes you would think that individuals should in fact work with you, but they don't. Oftentimes that many times people can be of your color, but not necessarily be of your kind.
Absolutely. Can you tell us, Senator, the job classifications that are available at City Hall, if you happen to know them?
There are, if you go to NOLA.gov, NOLA.gov, and just look up jobs.
Okay.
And you'll see in every broken down to a couple of different categories that are actually there. But I know that there are at least 400 jobs that are currently here to deal with that, and opportunities for throughout the entire city, and from everything from deputy city attorneys to everything that falls underneath that category. But there are definitely opportunities that are actually there as it relates to that. So
listen, if you want to talk and have a comment around any of the issues that we're talking about, the number here is 504-582-9422. In studio as my co-host today is Senator Wesley Bishop, who has a wealth of information and knowledge regarding all things politics, specifically on our local level. And so he's always a good resource to talk to. I want to thank all of our callers. I mean, I told you the WBLK listening audience
great radio
is phenomenal.
audience.
Right? So on the other side of the break, we're going to talk national politics. And I hear Russia is trying to interfere with the 2024 election.
Once again.
So once again, we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. I am Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. This is WBLK 1230, the station you listen to all day long.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
It's another WDSU Weather Impact Day. Heavy rain is expected throughout the day, which could lead to flooding. A flood watch is in effect through Saturday morning. Highs for today will be into the low to mid-80s, more 80s into the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, it's going to feel a lot more comfortable as humidity levels will drop. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Mom, meet Sarah.
From first-time Nana moments.
And welcome to Flight 101.
To annual girls trip moments. Your can't-miss moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Mount Hermon Baptist Church Hospitality presents The New Black Wall Street, Saturday, September 21st at 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. Have a chance to introduce your products and services to a captivating audience. Calling all small business owners, food vendors, authors, body care products, wellness boutiques, clothing merchandise, and much more at Mount Hermon Baptist Church, 3512 U.S. Highway 90 in Avondale. This event is free to the public. To become a vendor or for more information, contact 504-436-8062.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
New Orleans, this is Jamar McNeely, Chief Executive Officer of Spinola Charter Schools. I'm excited to invite you to an incredible event you don't want to miss. The NOLA Love, Inspiration, Advocacy Rally featuring legendary Bishop T.D. Jakes. Join us on September 6th at 10 a.m. at Xavier's Convocation Center as we come together to uplift our community, inspire change, and advocate for the future of our youth. This is your chance to be a part of something truly powerful. RSVP now at inspirenolaschools.org. We'll see you there.
Hey, everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, and we're back. We are back. I am Dr. Ashanta White. In studio, we have Senator Wesley Bishop.
Good morning, New Orleans. Good morning. We have had a phenomenal conversation on this morning, and as we draw to the 9 o'clock hour, we want to spend some time talking about United States accusing Russia of using state media to spread disinformation ahead of the November election. As we know, this election is extremely important. Every vote is actually going to matter. And the idea that we would have another country to have that kind of interest and that particular kind of influence on our elections, we've heard about this since 2020. It's resurfacing its ugly head again. And particularly, the statement says that the Biden administration seized Kremlin-run websites and charged 2 Russian state media employees in its most sweeping effort yet to push back against what it says are Russian attempts to spread disinformation ahead of the November presidential election.
And let me tell you something, Senator. I saw the story where they're creating AI, AI messaging and platforms, and they're putting out misinformation or disinformation, and they're attributing that to Russia. And I think it's very scary because a lot of our young voting populace, the social media is their news, right? And so if you're believing everything you're seeing on social media, then we're in trouble. Because, again, that goes back to the fact checking, right? Mm-hmm. Just because it is posted doesn't mean it's real. And a lot of our young folk cannot distinguish between fact and fiction, especially when it looks real, right? I've seen people post pictures and you can literally take someone out the picture and it looks like they were never there, right? You can edit things and you can create information around falsities, and that's what's happening here. And everybody is saying, well, the news media is saying Russia is behind it. They say much of the concern around Russia centers on cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns designed to influence the November vote. So if we weren't worried before, should we be worried now?
We absolutely should be worried now because I don't trust. I don't trust some folks as far as I can throw them when it comes to, and I think anything is possible when it comes to this. And when we talk about this disinformation, the same article that we were looking at specifically actually mentioned it. It says that the ultimate goal, however, is to get Americans to spread Russian disinformation without questioning its origin or intent. People are far more likely to trust and repost information that they believe is coming from a domestic source, officials said. Fake websites designed to mimic U.S. news outlets and AI-generated social media profiles are just 2 methods. And that's so unfortunate. You see something up there, you think it's legitimate. So because you think it's legitimate, you're quick to spread it. Somebody else sees it, they think it's legitimate, they spread it, and so on and so on and so on. When the initial source is never fact-checked, is never questioned, and can be totally unreliable. But by the time that happens, you never undo what you did in the very first place. And as we said, that lie has traveled around the world, and the truth hasn't even left the store yet.
Yeah, the truth is the turtle in this race, right? And so I think it is very important. It's almost critical that there's someone in the Harris campaign that is actually like fact checking these articles that are going out and making certain that if it's out there, we have a counter to it, right? Because again, a lot of the young population of voters, social media is their MSNBC. It is their Fox News. It is their CBS, WWL, WDSU. It is their WBOK, right? And so we have to make certain that we are not only informing our voting populace, but to make certain that we're disengaging them from the false information or the misinformation that's out there.
And Doctor, one other thing that I think is just, I guess, so critically important, and we talked about this when I was watching the Democratic National Convention a couple of weeks ago, and when Michelle Obama was speaking. And I will never forget, she kept saying, do something. We got to do something. Don't get upset because you say you didn't get an official call from the campaign and they asked you for your vote and this, that. Time out for that foolishness.
Right.
You have to do something. And so when we talk about this particular piece here, when you see a bit of misinformation that's out there, while it would be great if we got the state of Louisiana, the Democratic Party, to come in and totally correct that and put the real information out there, while it would be great to get object to here in the city of New Orleans, do that exact same thing. But if you see something that you know that's incorrect, and if it's being put back out there or being disseminated by somebody that you know, pick up the phone. I have a friend that lives in Atlanta, Georgia, that used to be my secretary, and I saw her post something that was anti-Vice President Harris.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, first of all, I ain't seen this person in like 6 years, but I'm like, what kind of change has she gone through in the last 6 years that causes her to put out negative information out there when I know the kind of person I thought she was back then? I picked up the phone and I called her. After a long conversation, that information isn't there anymore. We got to do something. We got to take this election personal.
Yes.
Because we don't want to sit there on the day after the election and say, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Like we did with the governor's race, right?
Absolutely.
Because we just did not show up and we did not show out in the voting booth. But how important is Black media, specifically entities such as WBOK, and making certain that we are informing our voting populace and we are refuting disinformation and misinformation?
Oftentimes, Black media, and particularly here in New Orleans, WBOK is the only source that actually comes back and combats much of the misinformation that you actually see. Without question. You know, if you want the truth, or as they used to say that when I was in the legislature, they used to say the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus was the conscience of the legislature.
Come on.
So when I sit here and I think about it, WBOK is the conscience of the city of New Orleans. You say the things that other folks won't say or can't say or aren't willing to say, but everybody knows it's real. But sometimes they just need to hear it on a credible source, and that credible source here in the city of New Orleans is WBOK.
Yeah, and I think one of the pillars here is that we push independent thinking. This is not group thought over here.
Correct.
I have my personal opinions. Oliver Thomas has his personal opinions.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Senator Wesley Bishop has his personal opinions, but our personal opinions only follow what the news is talking about, what the stories are, what information is already out there. But when you have people with a certain expertise that they offer their professional opinions in this arena, I don't see any other platform doing it the way WBOK does it. And so this Black source media, this independent thinking, this shying away from group thought is one of the reasons why the listeners are so engaging, and they will yank your chain when you're on here talking about things and you misstep or you misspeak, or they will correct you, and they call in and they have a certain level. Like Lindell, his expertise is invaluable. Miss Alicia, her expertise is invaluable. Reverend Calhoun, and these are consistent listeners of WBOK. And so when you have people like that monitoring the things that you say, you have to keep your knives sharp.
And to take it one step further, not only are they consistent listeners of WBOK, they are consistent activists in the city of New Orleans.
Yes.
They have a consistent track record on many different issues time and time and time again. And oftentimes, as you may mention, during conversations, you don't necessarily always have to agree. You don't have to agree. But you need to be able to talk and share what's going on, because maybe there's something that I don't know that you know that can inform my opinion. So if I was saying something wrong before, after this conversation is over with,
we're going to get your mind right.
We're going to get your mind right. Get your mind right.
We're going to get your mind right. Well, thank you Senator Wesley Bishop, for joining me. You gonna come back and
I
co-host
will
with me?
absolutely
Because
come.
the people want you to come back. Particularly Miss Linda Roman. She said you have to come back. You have to come back, Senator Bishop.
I promise I will be back.
And co-host with me. I want to thank Congressman Troy Carter for always being available to us on Thursday. I want to thank every caller and every listener of WBOK. This has been a dynamic show. And as OT would say, it's not the side porch, it's not the back porch, but the front porch is up next with Graylin and Kimber. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you, New Orleans. Thank you, Dr. Wise. It's been a phenomenal show. Looking forward to it. You took care of us. We appreciate it, and looking forward to coming back.
And as always, I couldn't have done this with Nyron holding me down behind the glass.
Hold it down, Nyron. Hold it down.
This has been WBOK 1230, the station you listen to all day long.